improves end-to-end traceability of processes. So this is an employee typically looks for various data which he wants, but once the entire data is there in the system, the traceability factors improves very much. The benefit of management decisions supported by relevant data and analysis. So management is also able to see the entire data in the system. So they are not dependent on some manual sheets of paper or some email or some verbal communication which happens and is forgotten. And there is a lot of data discipline and standardization which happens. What is the benefit of ERP implementation for managers? So typically now you as MBAs would join a company as say manager sales or manager finance or some executive role you would take up. So an ERP, if it is implemented, then it has a seamless integration across all functions. Then accurate and online visibility of costs and profitability of the operations. So that is very important. Now today what is happening is that due to competitive scenarios, the senior management in the company, the management council or the board is asking for more and more analytical data and they are trying to benchmark their company with the competition. So there I think you need to have an accurate and online visibility of all the financials in the system. So if you have implemented an ERP, it will be very good for you. It will be a sort of competitive advantage for you. And typically it is said that ERP projects cost very large sum, or the costs are very high. But if you compare with the advantages of a good ERP implementation, these costs are that when I'll say that your ROI is very high if you have implemented ERP very well. Some of the other benefits which an ERP implementation will have is there will be a powerful MIS and analytics which will be available for host of leadership within the company. You must be knowing the management pyramid, the strategic level, the tactical level and the operational level. So at all levels people will have updated data, correct data, accurate data which is actionable. So actionable data is sometimes not available in organizations. So where there is a mix of manual processes and automated processes, or the company is entirely onto manual processes, there the availability of actionable data is a big challenge. When controlling of revenue leakage, now any organization would not like its revenue to be leaked. Now revenue leakage will so happen is that you have sold something to the customer, but you are not building. Okay, but if you have properly configured the sales process, it will so happen that the system will give you triggers that these goods have been there is outward of these goods, yet there is no invoice raised against a particular delivery. So all those things will come out. Or in case of a services company, it will be like some services have been rendered to the customer, but there is no request for invoice from the project manager. So again, scalability I talked about, and the ability to manage the workforce tremendously improves if you implement ERP in a organized way. Now this is one of the aspects which I would like to emphasize. And again, I am not an expert in ERP, but having experienced over past 3-4 years, I am trying to just pass on my experience to you. The planning aspects of ERP is typically where Indian companies don't invest. Indians typically want to get things done very fast. They want to do it at low cost. They want to do make away or do away with many of the processes which come. They feel that they are not relevant. So typically, if you compare an approach of a US consultant and an Indian consultant, you will find that the planning is a big difference. So I would like to emphasize that a planning of an ERP decides whether the implementation is successful or it is a failure. I mean, it applies in any field actually, means it applies to your studies as well. Means if you don't plan for your studies well and do it on the last day, I mean, the results you would get are not going to, I mean, be as good as when if you have studied say one month in advance, or you have been a continuous learner. In ERP, what are the phases in planning? So there is a three-phase planning which is there. First, you have to plan the solution. Then you have to plan the implementation, and you have to plan how you are going to use that ERP. So these are the three phases which you need to plan. Then what is the approach to finalize an ERP decision? Because ERP decision typically is a very high cost decision. It needs a lot of cash outflow, first of all. It requires approvals which typically come from the board of directors. So, the last thing is like organize the program, ERP program itself. And what are the critical success factors for success of an ERP program? So solution planning, what all things a solution planning typically, now just to summarize, this talk which I am giving is applicable to any IT implementation. It is not specific to ERP. Even if you are implementing a small application, these steps have to be followed in more or less same sequence. The magnitude or the depth of the exercise might vary, but any IT implementation, like you go in say Infosys or in TCS or in Wipro, everybody follows more or less the same strategy or same sort of process. The names might be different, but essentially you have to arrive at a decision on ERP. Then what are the modules you need to purchase based on the processes you want to align. Then what are the decisions on the legacy system? Sometimes it so happens that a particular legacy system is not getting mapped to a ERP. In that case, what do you do? Whether you want to do customization in the ERP or you want to maintain it in the current format. So that decision, then actually raising a purchase order, and then taking a decision on the implementation partner, and then finally a contract with the implementation partner. So these are the steps in solution planning. So as we saw, there is a three-phase approach. First you plan which ERP you need to implement, whether it's going to be SAP, Oracle or any other ERP. I am taking few names which I know. Of course there are host of ERPs available. I myself have worked more into SAP, so I can relate more to the SAP methodologies than anything else. Then implementation partner is basically a consulting body which implements an ERP. So there are two aspects to an ERP implementation. One is the solutions company like SAP. They are basically selling the product, ERP product to you, and then there is a one company, services company, which implements this ERP in your company. So we need to finalize both the product as well as who is going to implement. So there are a lot of considerations when you take a decision on an implementation partner. Like you send your RFQ, so request for quotation, wherein you give all the details, like what all things you want from that organization. Okay. Let us now talk about an ERP budget. Having talked about the solution planning, what a typical ERP budget includes. Now you are students of finance, so you know there are different types of costs which are there. So in ERP also we have different types of costs. We have the ERP software cost. Then this applications or the software has to be mounted on a hardware, or it has to be installed on a hardware. Then there is a manpower cost involved of the people who actually participate in an ERP program. Then cost of the consulting company which you are, or the implementation partner, as I talked about, that is the implementation partner fees. And then there are certain other costs also, like traveling or accommodation or various other costs which are there, like cost of functional team members who are going to participate in the. So business also has to have a very active participation in an ERP project. An ERP project cannot be successful if it is only between the IT department and the implementation partner. The business has to, I'll come to one slide wherein I will show how an ERP project is typically managed. Okay. So this is an approach for ERP decisions. What are the considerations for products and module decisions? So consideration for ERP selection. So functional fit. So you have to look at what are the broad set of processes your organization has. Say you finalize that you have some around 80 processes. So which is the best functional fit? Means which ERP fits your processes the best? Then you do a technical evaluation. Now technical evaluation looks at various factors including the design of the product to essentially how good it is to customize and whether this customization can be maintained. So all those things. Then commercial evaluation. So typically we have the small companies, the SME sector, the mid caps and the large caps. So commercial evaluation by each of these companies is different. So everybody has to make their budget available, or I'll say make their budget for how much they want to invest in an ERP. So it should commensurate with the business benefits they are going to take. Like a Kirana store cannot invest in a enterprise-wide application which is costing around 5 crores. So just an example. I mean this example is bit but I'm saying is that we have to, and then there are certain strategic considerations like high growth companies would like to invest in ERP at an early stage so that they have the early bird advantage. Okay, so they are poised to take over. Many of the big enterprises in India, whenever they float a new company, they ensure that first the systems are in place. Because once the business starts growing up, then the systems are ready to take up the challenges of the business. So systems as an enabler of the business have to be. They are basically the first things to be done in a business. Normally it is the other way around. People grow the business and then they think about the system. So, but there are some companies which take care of this. Then what are the considerations for module selection? I think I will skip this. Then we come to the actual implementation of an ERP. Okay, so what are the deliverables from an implementation? So typically an ERP implementation, if it happens, what are the deliverables which this ERP implementation has? A deployed system ready for use and fully tested. It should have completed a parallel run, like every organization has some or the other application running when they run an ERP. Like for example, if I want to implement SAP in a company, that company might have some other application which is already running there. Say it is a Tally or some other accounting software, QuickBooks or some such thing. So we have to ensure that the parallel run is completed. Then we have trained users because there is a new system in place. So again, this is one of the pitfalls which is there in ERP implementation. A good implemented ERP can go horribly wrong if the users are not properly trained on how to. It is like you have a very good car, but the driver is not trained. So he will he will dash that car or he will have an accident with that car. So that way you have to have. Then you have to define all the data entry procedures. What all data goes into the system. So, you have to monitor that. Then the operation setup, the support setup. Because once an ERP comes into the organization changes a lot. Means it changes from a process